I have with me a very busy man, especially at tournament time, Sports Information Director, Mr. Ryan McGinty. How you doing, sir?
I'm fine. Yourself?
All right, real good. Look, a lot of people going like SID, Sports Information Director. Explain to the people what your role is. I know you're a man of many hats, but explain to the people what your role is.
In layman's terms, I'm the publicity director for the Department of Athletics, meaning if there's a story that comes out, I'm responsible for sending it out to the various news outlets. If there's something that needs to be sent to the TV stations or newspapers, I'm in charge of that. So to make it real easy, if something that's newsworthy, my job is to make sure the masses get the news.
All right, so you are the lifeline for the athletic department.
In so many ways, I'm the lifeline. I try to explain to people when we're at events, and you've seen it personally. Sometimes people may think I'm brushing them off, but if the stats do not get recorded and sent to the NCAA or the various outlets, it's like the game doesn't exist, and a fine is attached to it if that doesn't happen. So in so many ways, I am the lifeline, because if there's nothing that comes out of the game I'm at, it's like if nothing happens. So I'm basically the gatekeeper to make sure the event actually took place.
Wow. So that's a lot of weight on a young man. I see some gray popping up on you, man.
I'm just old.
Now, you said, the key word you just said, explain. There's a decision that was made by the SWAC office that would allow all teams to play in this upcoming SWAC basketball tournament. There were teams that were ineligible. We'll get into that a little bit later on. How do you handle that as a sports information director?
Well, fortunately, Prairie View was not one of the 4 teams on the men's side ruled ineligible, but it was a trying time for us here because there were rumblings that there were already 3 teams ineligible for APR sanctions that was announced last year. So, and those teams weren't allowed in the tournament last year. So, you assume that the whole thing was going to stay the same format as last year. Just the eligible teams are available. So, last year, I want to say 2 weren't eligible, or 3 of them. And so, the conference adopted a different SWAC tournament format where the first round or first place team had a bye. Well, rumblings started to come out. There were 3 teams ineligible, which was true. But then word got out a 4th team was ineligible, which turned out to be Southern University, which was true. So then, I'll say this story. Our head coach, Byron Rim, had me to ask the conference office for a bracket. So I guess what he was hearing was the same thing that we might have thought, that some things weren't going to happen like we thought. And so I never got a response from the conference office, and come to find out the reason why was because a decision was made 2 weeks ago or last week, I'm not sure the time frame, that the conference is bringing all 10 teams to the SWAC tournament for the first time ever, eligible or ineligible. So this is the first year where we had a 10-team SWAC tournament, which forces 2 playing games on Tuesday night. And you have 4 teams, even if they go to championship game, are not eligible to go to the NCAA tournament. It's drawn a lot of controversy, and the presidents voted 8-2 in favor of it. So 2 presidents voted not to go, 8 voted for those teams to go. There's been a bunch of scenarios floating out there. I don't want to speculate as much because I don't know. We've got just one statement from the commissioner, but you listen to the consensus economics, which is the backbone of the NCAA, had a lot to do with it because there's a bunch of entities involved in this tournament, from the sports authority to a public relations firm the SWAC has to the schools themselves. And then you're talking about the city of Houston, and it may have some political ramifications, mayor, convention and visitors bureau. All I know, I think a lot of behind the scenes stuff we may ever know as a conference took place for that decision to be made because revenue was involved. And some people have said, well, Southern was winning. They both had 2 first place teams. We wanted their crowd, but Southern doesn't play until Thursday anyway on both sides. Now we have games on Tuesday. If you eliminated the 4 games, the 4 teams that's ineligible, 2 of the teams play on Tuesday. That's Grambling and Mississippi Valley. There would have been no need for a tournament on basically a men's side until Wednesday at the earliest. So basically, that's 4 more teams total that's here. That means 4 more several days of revenue spent at area restaurants, area hotels, tax revenue to the county, to the city. So I think it's economically driven, but it'll never be said publicly. So we just have to deal with the hand that's been given to us. So just winning 4 games, Prairie View will be fine.
Well, for the record, the 4 teams in question are the Southern Jaguars, the Grambling State Tigers, Mississippi Valley Delta Devil, and the Arkansas Pine Bluff Golden Lions. That's the record that we have on tip. Now, you just mentioned that it's the hidden rule of economics, the power of economics. What impact will this decision have as far as the conference itself?
That's going to be the million-dollar question, because the NCAA and the conference appealed to the NCAA to allow these ineligible teams to participate in postseason, which is just the SWAC postseason, not NCAA. So if Southern wins the tournament, the team that's walking off with their heads down is going to be the ones cheering because they're going. So you can have a crazy lineup if Southern gets a championship game against an eligible team. You may have 5 reserves start the game off because the eligible team will be trying to protect their health, for the playing game that Tuesday if selected, or that game that Thursday or Friday. But we want to know, it's just as fans, and I consider myself a fan of the conference because I grew up as a fan first. Will that affect the upcoming baseball tournament in a few months, softball, or even next year's football championship game? Because 2 years ago, Jackson State was ruled ineligible to participate in the conference championship game for APR. So people want to know, how will the rules change from this point? And that's going to be the million-dollar question that our commissioner and the presidents will have to work through, because our spring meetings are in May. So in May, you may not hear anything until May. Who knows? It just depends.
Now, that was leading right to my next question. What effect will this have on the baseball tournaments, the softball tournaments, volleyball tournaments? Football is almost self-explanatory, but when you have an invite for all the teams in the conference, now, from a fan's perspective, I like that, knowing that if my team went 4-12, or in our case, 8-12, then we still got a chance because we're in the tournament. But does it stop at just basketball? The world may never know, and that's one of those deals where we have to kind of wait and see. This is Mike Prince with the Open Mic Broadcast Network. I'm speaking with the Sports Information Director for the Prairie View A&M University Panthers, Mr. Ryan McGinty. And Ryan, how long have you been in your role, sir?
Well, I came back to Prairie View in 2009, so I think I'm in year 5 of my cycle, but I came and started in sports information in 2002. So 12 years, give or take. I was at Grambling State from 2006 to 2009, came back to Prairie View. A lot of people don't know as the assistant SID. I just wanted to get back home and into Texas. And so I spent a year and a half as the assistant SID. And then I got bumped up once the last guy chose another path. So I've been doing this quite some time, and before that I worked for a weekly newspaper in a small town in Texas. So I've been doing this for a long time, met a lot of people, seen this whole thing evolve from to where we could not get an athletic website at Prairie View to where we had one, but then IT had to develop it, and you had to pull teeth to get it. And then we got one, which was old and outdated. Then we finally got a modern one recently, but then, I loved all the new toys, but problem is when you get new toys, you still got to have someone to operate the new toys. So each new toy you get is just more added to my plate, but that's what I signed up for. And it just helps that you're surrounded by a bunch of people that understands your vision, and it makes your job much easier.
Well, you talk about a lot on your plate. I get a chance to watch you work from afar, and I thank God that I do radio and radio only. Not, hey, you're a busy man, and I tip my hat to you on that. But in most cases, I know, like for us, it's more than really a job. It's a passion. It's a part of you. And when it becomes a part of you, it becomes a labor of love. And even though we always look for a pay increase, but it's something that you enjoy doing, and you just pour yourself out into it.
Well, you try to stress that if you can get a 5-minute open forum with someone when the issue of money comes up, you try to stress that in so many ways without just saying, I need this. You try to sell it. Obviously people are observing, like you said, when you don't know they're observing. That's why I try to tell a lot of these folks and youngsters in general now is, you come in office, I may be looking at you in a different way than what you may think. If you come in here dressed kind of crazy, I'm thinking like, well, okay, the attire is going to be a problem. And so you just don't know when you're going to get that opportunity to express everything or to prove what you're worth to somebody. So you got to carry yourself well at all times. And I tell folks, you're not going to make a bunch of money starting off. And in some cases in this world of athletics, it's sometimes about what you do. But this business, and it's just corporate America in general, it's not what you know at times. That's good to get you in the door, but who you know. Because a lot of times I can get a job interview just by I know somebody who knows someone else. And then they know if that person vouches for you, it's automatic. And so I had no problem telling people my last 2 jobs I received at Grambling, someone told at that time Dewar Sharp, he was the interim AD at Grambling. They told him about me. He called me up. I didn't really have an interview. I met him 20 minutes. He just gave me, here's what you need to do for that weekend. And so I was over there for 3 days until they got a permanent leadership, which was someone else I knew through someone else. So it does help to be skillful. And there's been times where I've known people, and for instance, I have an open position right now. I'm getting a lot of hits on people interested, but at the time, if I know you and I know your work ethic and you're not going to be a good fit, I'm not going to consider you. So people need to understand you're watching this whole time. Yeah, we all get frustrated. We may not get paid what we're worth, but you can't let frustration get the hold of you, get the best of you, because if people see that, then they're not going to deal with you down the line.
Very good. Mr. McGinty of the Prairie View A&M University Panthers Athletic Department, the Sports Information Director. He is knee-deep in paperwork, getting ready for this tournament. With all the dust that's settling down, with the decisions that have been made, what are you expecting out of the Panthers on both the men and the women's side?
Well, obviously, I received the opportunity to travel with both teams, so I've watched them from afar and watched them up close. On the men's side, if anyone that saw the team early this year, double overtime against Sam Houston. I'm not sure where Sam Houston finished, but I'm not mistaken, they're upper half of the Southland Conference. They played teams, a lot of teams tough, but then we got a conference play, which was almost similar to last year when we beat University of Houston here, and we struggled in conference play. We just didn't close out games, or just the execution wasn't there. This team has the ability, some people may think I'm crazy or even a homer, they have the ability to win the conference. Every team I've seen, there's no team that's heads and shoulders above everyone. Southern looks the best from up close, but if anyone remembers here, we was up by 2 points with 2 minutes left against Southern. So in last year, Southern blew us out both times. In the conference championship, we were a missed layup or a missed charge or whatever you want to look at it away from going to the NCAA tournament. So it just depends on which team shows up and how we execute. But I think by the arena being the Toyota Center, no one has ever shot in there before in the SWAC. So it's about whoever can play the best defense for the first day. By us getting an extra day may be a benefit for us when we play Southern, because they're coming in there cold on Wednesday. If we win Tuesday night, we have an extra day at the Toyota Center. We know the dead spots. That can go great for us. On the girls' side, injuries. Larissa Scott, I'm not sure if she's going to play or not. She hasn't played in quite some time because I can't specify the injury, but if you watch her, you would know, obviously. But Jeanette Jackson's been slowed up. Teams are putting bigger defenders on her and forcing her to exert a lot of energy, which now means someone else has to step up. Lorraine Washington, Gabrielle Scott, and we got to have Shemaya Brooke play well on both ends. So what's happening, teams are getting her in early foul trouble, 3 in the first 15 minutes of the game. Basically, you're ineffective like that. And we just had to have a complete team effort for the women. Opening up with Alabama State's not going to be easy. We saw them last Monday night. and saw what they can do. We were still in the game, but we just have to come out early, avoid foul trouble. We can get Jeanette early, hot early. Lorraine will usually follow up, and then that opens up the shooters. And then life goes on, and we can make that tournament run. Our second game, if we beat Alabama State, will be against Southern. A tough physical team. You just hope that, we come out. Now, it's not guaranteed Southern's going to make it because they got to play somebody, if I'm not mistaken, Wednesday night. And so it's going to be an interesting tournament one way or the other because the venue kind of evens it out. So I'm not surprised if you'll see a lower seed win the tournament just because Prairie View's won it as a 4. Definitely, I know 2 years doing our run. So it's just a matter of playing well and getting hot at the right time.
Well, that's what makes the tournament the tournament. You got to get out there and play it, regardless of what you look like on paper. You've got to play the game. Well, I want to thank you so much. Your phones have been ringing, emails have been chiming. I know you're a busy man. Thank you so much for this time and this opportunity. Is there anything you'd like to share before we get out of here?
I got one thing. I'm going to put you on the spot. You've always asked each and every time from me, well, what do you think of my broadcast? And I don't know if a lot of people, I don't know, how do y'all know Mr. Prince as I know him? Because he may be a whole different person away from Prairie View. I'm not sure. You always ask me, what you think of what I do and blah, blah, blah. I always kind of give him a assessment, not a personal assessment because I haven't really just taken time out, but I will go on record and say this. He's asked me again, what do I think of him? I met him a few years ago, and he was just a baseball guy. I thought he was just a baseball guy. I didn't know anything else. Then kind of as I got to know him, I realized he's almost weird how I'm going to say an older version of me. Someone that wants to be in the mix, wants to get in the know with everybody. Sometimes you kind of got to keep knocking on doors. And he knocked on 1 billion doors, and a few of them are beginning to open for him, and it's helped him because now people are listening to his product here normally where most people never have. So the good thing is his product is something I enjoy listening to it. I like some of the things he does. Well, I can say you right here. But I'm saying I like some of the things you do for the community, first of all. And secondly, you bring a different perspective to our department because, like I've told you in the past, there's 1,000,001 stories, especially on our end. We're not covered by a bunch of people. So you want to have people to explain stories that other people may not run with. And so just as having you here has been an asset to us. And since you asked me to critique your broadcast, I said it. I like it, but if you want to go over the top, just bring me on as a color commentator. I don't want to say Amos and Andy type situation, but we'll turn into a comedy hour at best. But I just appreciate what you have done, and just having someone to show an interest in Prairie View is true to me because sometimes it felt like I've done a lot of stuff here. I'll stay here sending notes out. Then I give it to people. They just look at it and put it down. It's like, I want to say a word, 4-letter word. Like, dang. Why not? But, you've taken the extra step and have tried to enhance both of our products. Your product, obviously, and in our product. So it's a great partnership. We look forward to growing in the future. And you're my first interview since 2009, I want to say. Probably 2008 when I was at another school. That's been done at Prairie View. So Just keep up the good work. And if you need anything from me, I'll definitely help you or pass along some stories. If you heard the kid on Regis on Wukamuche, that was another good story that I knew through him. And I said, well, someone needs to run with it. So Prince came to me, and the rest was history. So
fine young man. He's definitely a fine young man.
He's knocking on your door. Definitely in the future, listen to Mr. Prince because he's a great asset for both of us, department, myself, and our student athletes who are the reason we're here now.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And I do have an extra headset for you. If you want to work this basketball tournament, I'll settle right next to you, man, and let you put your spiel in.
We'll discuss that because no comment on that.
All right. This is Mike Prince with the Open Mic Broadcast Network and the Sports Report. Thanks to Mr. McGinty for allowing the time.
Hold on. I don't want to interrupt, but my dad's a native of Navasota, and I joke with Mr. Prince. He needs to expand his coverage from Walker County to Grimes. They only play championship level football, and his basketball team went over. So I'm well versed on local athletics also. So
yes, sir. And we're in the development process of that. Thank you, Mr. McGinty. Anything else before we wrap? I'm trying to wrap this segment up. This is Mike Prince with the Sports Report and the Open Mic Broadcast Network saying God bless, and we'll see you on the other side.